podcast you've been looking for all along. Step into the world of urban exploration with guests from around the world. Welcome to No Tracers. Welcome back to No Tracers. How's it going? I hope you're doing well. So, this week on the podcast, I am speaking with Ahsulak, who actually reached out to me on Instagram to let me know that he enjoyed the podcast. And I was like, hey, do you want to be on an episode of the podcast? And he said yes. So here we are, making podcasts together. I love this show. It's so much fun. I love getting feedback from you guys. I love hearing from you guys. So if you are an explorer and you want to be on the podcast and share some of your stories, hit me up at no.tracers on Instagram. We'll get you on an episode of the show. We'll talk about exploring. We'll talk about scary stories. We'll talk about all the ins and outs of exploring, tips, tricks, all the good stuff. And we'll just have a good time talking about something we have in common. And if you guys do like this show, if you like this episode at any point in time, please leave a rating and feedback. It helps the podcast grow. It helps more people find us. And if you do that, I will send you a signed photo print from an abandoned place that I have explored. All you got to do is take a screenshot of your feedback and send it to me at no.tracers on Instagram. If you guys are interested in picking up a copy of my photography book, No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary, or reading my blog, you guys can go to notracers.com. All the good stuff is over there. Thank you guys for listening. And a huge thank you to our partner, Liquid Death Water. If you've never heard of Liquid Death Water, don't worry. I've got an ad coming for you in 3, 2, 1. From the streams of the Austrian Alps comes a new kind of water. A water that is sure to raise you from your grave. If you're tired of buying cases of plastic water bottles that contain carcinogens and God knows what else, or if you're trying to lower your waste footprint, Liquid Death comes in beautifully rugged aluminum cans. Murder your thirst with a can of Liquid Death. Check the link in the description and use code JustTheLetterK at checkout for 10% off your order. Liquid Death. Murder your thirst. So if you want a discount on Liquid Death Water, use code JustTheLetterK at checkout or click the link in the description. It will take you straight to the affiliate site where you guys will automatically get that discount implemented. So without further ado, Ahsulak, can you please introduce yourself and what it is you do to the No Tracers audience?
Yeah, I'm Ahsulak. I do abandoned photography in abandoned schools, factories, hospitals. I've been doing it for a long time, since like 2004. I kind of incorporated a lot of the history with a lot of my videos, but I kind of slowed down on that because I didn't want to give away too many of the locations. My wife does a lot of art photography, but she only goes when it's not too sketchy.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I totally get what you mean about, kind of chilling out on the history of places because it does really give away the locations of stuff. And that always makes it a little bit more difficult to like post our explorations. So I totally can relate to that. What got you into exploring in the first place? What made you catch this bug?
When I was a kid, I found some photos. My dad took these like black and white photos of, it was like abandoned cabins and houses in the woods, and ever since then I've been inspired to go out and find places to do this. And later on, when I was a teenager, we found an abandoned asylum up in Ypsilanti, Michigan. It's long gone now, but yeah, we went in there, and for like 2 days straight we were in there taking photos and filming stuff, and we ended up like seeing some of these people pulled up, and they snuck in, and we ran down and scared them pretty bad, and they ran back out. And as soon as we went outside, we were swarmed by security, and they ended up taking all of our equipment and telling us to get out of there. And then we never seen any of our stuff again. But ever since all that, I've just been hooked on exploring.
Damn, even though you had like a, run-in with security and they took all your gear, you still fell in love with this. I think that's amazing. Like a lot of people, they get their gear taken and they're like fuck this, I'm never doing this again. But I love that you were like, nah, we're going to keep going.
Yeah, you should learn from your experiences, I guess.
And then did the photography come into play like at the very beginning? Were you always like taking photos and stuff? I mean, it sounds like you were.
Oh yeah, like way before that place, I would any abandoned place I found, I would take pictures of the outside or sometimes sneak in a little bit.
Love that. I love it. And like, I just love how photography helps us capture these memories that we can share with other people. Can you talk a little bit about how you like to capture your images, like how you develop this style that you have, and you can talk a little bit about your editing process as well, like your color grading and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I kind of just like I try to, if I've been in a place enough, I try to find like the darkest, creepiest spot and try to capture that, and then hopefully not do too much editing, but I'll run it through some grainy stuff and make it kind of darker and scarier, you know.
I love it. Yeah. And I love that, these places are already dark and spooky. And so just the way we capture them, like you don't need to necessarily over edit your photos. There are some photographers that do urban exploration that over edit their photos like crazy. And it's like, you don't need to do that, just let it be how it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then can you talk about the gear you use as far as like camera gear goes, or maybe you have a pair of boots that you like to wear, or backpack, stuff like that? What's your gear list?
I don't have anything too fancy. I use like I think a Nikon D5600. I got a pretty cool spherical lens I like to use every now and then. It's a little difficult to like whip it out and try to get it all manually set up to do it, but if I need that shot, I like to use that. I use a GoPro 8, and for a lot of the YouTube stuff, um, I got a nice light panel I like to take if I'm going down in like some scary basement or something that has like a dimmer switch on it, because sometimes when you're filming, the lights can be way too bright and you can't see things. Um, I like to use like military grade flashlights with like a zoom on it. I use a T6 300 lumen flashlight with like a zoom, and I like to take rope and stuff too, because I've had a few situations where I've almost fell through floors and been in flooded basements. So I always figure if I have people with me and I have a rope, maybe I have some kind of fighting chance to get out of there. Um, I always like to wear some good work boots in there, something steel toe, and some nice heavy pants, like some Wrangler pants, because I find myself crawling through glass and uh, razor wire, barbed wire, whatever, all the time. So, but I don't like to take too much expensive gear in there, considering I've had it all taken from me and never seen again. So.
Yeah, I feel you. And let's talk a little bit more about your YouTube stuff. So you've got a video of the Abandoned American Motors Corporation that has like over 100,000 views. Can you tell me about that exploration and why that video you think did so well?
Oh, it's got to be really, it's because Detroit has like a rich culture with the automotive industry. And when that place closed down, a lot of people lost their jobs. And I get a lot of comments from people who worked there or owned a car from, one of those cars that they made there. And there's a lot of people reflect back on that video and can remember things. The locals can remember things of that place. And it's quite a long video. We explored for like 8 hours, and we tried to capture everything we saw laying around. If it was like equipment or like documents and blueprints of cars and stuff. So I think people really, that's why they enjoyed it, maybe.
Yeah, you brought a lot of that history to light in that video, like with the documents and things like that. I love finding documents in abandoned places. It really like brings you back to like, the history of the place and where they came from. Like, for example, I just got back from Denver a little while ago, and we were in this abandoned strip club, and they had like calendars from 2016 still up, and they had like paperwork and like all kinds of stuff. And it's always crazy to see what people leave behind. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, for example, I mean, why do you think people just leave these places?
a lot of them get booted out of there, and they don't have time to haul a lot of the stuff out. So whatever like the people who vandalize don't get a hold of, I think just gets left behind. You know.
Yep. Absolutely. And then tell me about some of the other places around Detroit you've explored. There's, the Detroit Hospital, the zoo. Tell me about some of the other places in Detroit that you've explored.
Schools. I think. We've done houses, schools, uh, other automotive places. Everything in Detroit's getting pretty rough right now. It's pretty banged up. There's not a lot to see in the buildings too much anymore. But yeah, I've done a lot of that Detroit stuff. I'm kind of trying to expand my way out right now and find other things outside of Michigan to explore now.
Yeah, it's always good to get out of the like state that you're in. I'm in California and I've explored not everything in California because there's new stuff popping up all the time, especially now during the pandemic with all these businesses shutting down. But it's nice to get out and go explore and see what else is out there, And can you tell me about your scariest exploration?
Man, all of them. A lot of them have been kind of scary, especially when I go alone. Things tend to happen more. But I don't know. I just a light one that wasn't too bad was my last weekend. I went and did an overnight camp at an abandoned cement factory alone. I went on like a fishing trip, so I fished all day, and I waited for the teenagers to sneak back out of that place, and I went back in there and stayed the night. I kind of walked around at night and filmed some of the eeriness of the place at night, and then cooked a meal and tried to sleep in a tent, but there was people sneaking in there all night, walking around my tent. It was creepy. But at the beginning of this pandemic, I thought it would be a good idea to try to get out, see how it was. And like the day of the lockdown, I went out, and early morning, I snuck into a abandoned psychiatric hospital nearby, and it was being tore down at the time, but there was no work being done. So I went out at like early morning. I snuck in, and I was in there filming and taking photos for probably a good 20 minutes. And I hear this car doors slam, two car doors slam shut, and I was like, oh, great, here we go. So I immediately rushed upstairs for some reason instead of out the door. But I hid in a room, and I heard two individuals like enter the building from two different angles. Like one came in the front, one came in the side, and I could hear them coming right up to where I was. So I started panicking. My heart was beating so hard. It was like it jumped right out of my body and said, "Peace, bro. I'm out of here." And yeah, I packed my gear up. I was ready to run. Luckily there was a broken window on this second floor, and then I heard a dog bark, and I said, "Oh, this is for real then, huh?" So I looked down. I threw my bag out the window, and there was a tree probably about 7 or 8 feet away from me. I dove into the tree face first, and worked my way down real fast. I don't even remember hitting the ground, and I ended up beelining it to the tree line, and took off from there. I had to get down on the ground for a minute. I could hear the car moving around me, and I just tried to Google Map my way back to my car. I rushed my way back to the car, and I was all cut up, bleeding. So I can't imagine the people that were standing out around where I parked thought was going on. But that was probably my most intense solo explore this summer so far.
Damn. Do you have a preference? Do you prefer to explore by yourself, or do you like have a preference of exploring with people? Like what do you prefer?
I like exploring, with people. It's a lot safer, and I think when me and my wife were as a team together, and she's doing her photos and I'm doing my video, it's a lot easier to capture more that way. Plus, there's more eyes and ears on what's going on in the area. If something happens, we can help each other out a little bit.
Absolutely. And what's your favorite exploration to date?
That's a good one. Uh, probably the Detroit House of Corrections. It's long gone now, but that was probably the nicest, smoothest explore that I've done. I went with a couple other people. My buddy Oxymento, he tagged along. Um, we went out there, and it was kind of weird though. A guy did follow us into the woods, and then we ended up losing him. But it was a good exploration. There's a lot of light coming up, and we went out there right as the sun came up, so we got nice light coming through the prison cells and stuff. And we later found out that it was where John Sinclair was locked up from the John Lennon song
Yeah.
that where he went to jail for 2 joints, 2 for 20, I think it was called. Um, but yeah, that's probably my favorite explore right there is the prison.
And what about your favorite history of a place? Do you have a spot that you've explored that has like the, I don't know, the creepiest history or the darkest history or just your favorite history overall?
Well, a good one that stands out was this place we call the Jeepers Creepers School. It was an old schoolhouse that was on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries back in the '80s, and it inspired the movie Jeepers Creepers. The beginning scene where they're driving and they see a guy stuffing a bloody sheet into the ground or under something, and then he chases them down the road, and that's where that happened at. So that place was very exciting going there and seeing that place in person. And it was very creepy.
Wow.
There's comments in the video. Somebody said they heard somebody as I was approaching the stairs to go down in there that said "don't" real loud, as in don't go down there. And I was alone for that one, and I don't remember anybody ever talking in that video, so that really creeped me out.
Especially after the fact, you know, you like read a comment and you're like, oh wait, what? It's like,
oh yeah, and I go back and I watch it sometimes, and I do hear it. So
wow, that's nuts. That's nuts. But I love it. I love it. You know. So talk a little bit about social media and how that has become a part of like your journey as an urban explorer. Have you been able to like reach out to other explorers? Like just talk to me about your use of social media for urban exploring.
I not too much. I kind of go solo most of the time, but it does let me have an outlet for my content because I don't know a lot of people that do this stuff. So I have somewhere to release my stuff and see other people's stuff and just enjoy other people's work. I really enjoy the YouTube a lot more. I got in contact with the Unknown Cameraman, and I think that's where a lot of my views come from. He shared a couple of my videos on his channel, and they kind of blew up from there. And yeah, it's been a wild ride ever since.
That's awesome, man. And do you have any goal places that you haven't been yet that you're itching to go to?
Probably the Detroit salt mines. I've always wanted to go check out. They're like under the city. They're like 1,000 feet under the city, and they're like 100 miles long. And they say it's older than like cars that were built in our time, and they say they found like salt deposits from like the dinosaur period down there, and I would just love to go down there and kind of document that. That'd be pretty wild. I kind of think it'd be kind of cool to get a diving certificate and go diving and see like some old shipwrecks, something a little different, but that's a whole nother world on its own down there.
Yeah, I know a couple people that do like underwater shipwreck photography, and it's like a completely different type of adventure. You know, it's like there's no trespassing signs, first of all, which is nice. You know, like you can just go check out a ship which has been sunk. You know, it's like it's definitely different, and I'm in the same boat. I definitely want to get scuba certified so I can do that kind of stuff as well. I think that it would be very, very cool to go into that world and just try something a little bit different and something new.
Oh yeah, definitely. It sounds like a whole world of its own, man. I can't wait to try it.
Yeah. And if you could live in one place you've explored for 1 week, which place would it be?
Oh, that's a hard one. Man, they've all been pretty rough just to be in for the times I've been in them. I don't know. I kind of like these abandoned ruins I found around here that I did my camping trip at. They were pretty cool. It was just overgrown buildings that you could probably just camp out in for weeks at a time if people left you alone and just live off the land out there.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds incredible, man. And my last question for you is, what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started exploring?
If you see security, just run. Don't stick around and talk to them. Just take off, man. And if you think you've set off a motion detector, get the hell out of there. Don't stick around and get those last few photos.
Yep. Just leave. Just go.
Yeah,
just
get
out
of there. You can come back another time.
Exactly. So many people make that mistake. They're like, oh, we probably got like 10 minutes. No, dude, just leave. Awesome, man. Well, if people want to see your work or maybe buy a photo print from you or check out your YouTube channel, where can they go to find you?
My Instagram has a link tree, and I have my YouTube, Etsy, and my Spreadshirt account on there. And it's going to be Ahsulak, AHSULAK, on Instagram and YouTube.
All right, guys, that was my episode with Ahsulak. Thank you so much for coming on the No Tracers podcast and sharing some of your crazy stories with my audience. I had a blast talking to you. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please do me a huge favor and leave a rating and feedback for me. I would greatly appreciate it. It helps the podcast grow. It helps more people find us. And it helps give us some clout. Let's be real here. This is why we need ratings and feedback. But if you do leave a rating and feedback, send me a screenshot of it to @no.tracers on Instagram, and I will send you a signed photo print from an abandoned place that I've explored. And if you guys want to see more of my photography and hear more of my stories, you can go to notracers.com to read the blog, or you can pick up a copy of my book, No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary, which is a photo book full of stories and photos from my adventures around America. You guys are the best. Thank you for sticking around and listening to this podcast. I love doing this podcast. It is one of my favorite outlets. And if you want to be on an episode of No Tracers, hit me up at no.tracers on Instagram. We'll get you on the podcast. Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you again next Friday right here on whatever streaming platform you're listening to this on. Thank you guys. My name is K, just the letter K. Stay strong, keep enduring, go out, go explore something, and remember, leave no trace.